Matthew Vaughn. He is a pretty successful filmmaker. Has been making movies for about 20 years here. Has taken on a couple of franchises, a couple of big IP driven projects, but he really started off making original movies like Layer Cake, Stardust. But then he
Hmm.
transitioned into another lane, and once we saw him take on Kick Ass and really revitalize that particular IP, make it super successful, we saw him just have a slew of success thereafter. He directed X-Men First Class, I think a really,
Hmm.
really solid 20th Century Fox X-Men movie. But then for the past almost 10 years now, he's really been the shepherd of the Kingsman franchise, which is another comic book IP. And he's really kind of been the visionary behind that. The first Kingsman movie, of course, the second one, they dropped a prequel a couple of years ago. And he is eventually developing a third film that will bring back the original cast, as well as another Kick-Ass movie, which is sort of a reimagining. So he's been kind of working a little bit all over the place. But Argylle is sort of a return to form from him in terms of developing a new original movie, even though it is somewhat similar to what he's done with Kingsman, spy
Hmm.
action, comedy movie. This is an original property that he's developed and recently released alongside Apple TV Plus and Universal Pictures. This has been a movie that's been heavily promoted, I would say, over the past 7 or 8 months, and we got a chance to go check it out this past weekend. So with all of that out the way, man, I'll pass it over to you. What did you think about Matthew Vaughn's new movie, Argylle?
Dude, we've been watching trailers for this movie for like 8 months. It's been kind of crazy because it plays before every single movie that you see, no matter what movie you're gonna go see. You're gonna see that Argyle trailer, man. It's kind of crazy. I like Matthew Vaughn, man. I really like First Class. I like that first Kingsman a lot. I like the second Kingsman too, but I like that first Kingsman a lot. And up until this point, I've pretty much enjoyed all the things that he's done. I like Kick Ass. Haven't seen The King's Man, which I hear is not so good. So I'm a little bit lucky there. But Argyle man's here, and I'll start with the positives. Of course, you already said this is a spy action thriller kind of film. And this film surrounds Bryce Dallas Howard's character, who is writing fictional espionage. She literally writes spy books. And slowly but surely, the books kind of turn into her real life. And this is that story. And so, of course, in an action spy thriller, you're going to have a ton of action. And the stunt work, I think, is really good in this film. Like, there's a lot of times we're like, yeah, you have to use somebody else for that, but the way they do it is really good. It's really good stunt work for the most part. There are hand-to-hand combat parts of this that it's like, oh, I think I enjoy, that I do enjoy. And man, I also have to talk about Sam Rockwell, who I think is just so fun and a joy, I think, to watch. He's a very likable actor, and a really, I don't know, man. He's always been like one of those, like, anytime he's on screen, I'm never complaining. I'm like, oh yeah, Sam Rockwell's here. This is cool. And he is a big part of the movie, and I enjoyed him as well. Man, but this film is, it's lost to me. I don't know. This film is very confused, and though you could argue it knows exactly what it thinks it is and wants to be, there's moments where I had trouble, I think, trying to figure out what I wanted this movie to be. Because as I spoke about the synopsis of the film and how the books slowly turns into Bryce Dallas Howard's character's reality, I think those two get muddled too much in this. There's book side of things that contains Henry Cavill's character and John Cena's character, and that seems like it's meant to be campy and this one thing, and then real life is supposed to be another thing. But then the lines start to blur in a way that doesn't work for me, because there's no longer any separation. That is, now everything is campy, everything is over the top, everything is ridiculous, and because of that, I just lost myself in the movie. It's way too long of a film, and I couldn't believe how long the movie was, sitting at like 220 or something like that. And it was just simply too much. A lot of the plot was predictable for me. I think there is like a twist, and maybe a twist and a half, that worked for me in the story. But other than that, I could almost kind of see the entire time where the plot was going. And so there's just a lot of things in here that, I, again, I think I see the idea, but it simply just didn't work. And in fact, there's a lot of times where, because of that action, there's too much CGI. It takes away from, I think, the thing that I'm supposed to be watching. And there is, Matthew Vaughn always has like these big action scenes in Kingsman movies, and I think that is usually something to get excited about. But even this one, as bombastic as there is, as it is, there's just too much visual effects. There is too much CGI, and it doesn't feel like we've done the work to have this for this moment to be appealing. And so yeah, man, it's really weird because I think somewhere in here, deep down, there is a movie I might have enjoyed I might have liked watching, but because it's just so loud and there's so much happening and tonally, all of these things are just not working for me. I left pretty disappointed and in some ways overstimulated. Like it was it was kind of too much happening on screen and turned into a CGI fest. So overall, man, yeah, I didn't like it. I wanted to. I like Matthew Vaughn still as a director, but this movie, man, it was all over the place and there was a lot going on. But yeah, a lot of good ideas. It just didn't work for me.
So I won't really belabor the point with any context really beyond this, but I think Matthew Vaughn has been on a cold streak lately. Not really been a fan of what he's done over the past few years. Kingsman: The Golden Circle, which is the sequel to a movie I really, really, really had a lot of fun with. It's a step down. It's still fine, but it's definitely a step down. The Kingsman prequel movie that came out a couple of years ago, I thought that was a bad movie. Didn't enjoy that. I only appreciated that we could still expand that world, but definitely a letdown. And now here with Argylle, which I think is just a flat out bad movie. I didn't like it. It wasn't funny to me. I didn't really enjoy the action. There was one sequence towards the end of the movie that was fine, with some oil involved, but that's really the only thing that I enjoyed about it. Beyond that, it is just completely overdone in so many ways. And I felt the entire time watching the movie that Matthew Vaughn has probably reached this place, as have a lot of directors. I think, especially with these tech companies and these streamers now involved with filmmaking, they don't really have a leash on them. I feel like directors are just kind of let loose to do whatever they
Mm,
want to do, which, I think the natural inclination is to say, like, well, that's a great thing. Let the director have their vision. But also, sometimes I think having notes and feedback from people involved in movie making or from the business side can be useful. And I think that that's contributed to some of these really overly long films that we've gotten over the past few years
hmm
because these companies are kind of afraid to say no to these directors. There's no reason this movie should be 140 minutes long. It's absolutely ridiculous. There is some really, really bad CGI towards the end of it that took me out of the sequences. It has an unnecessary amount of plot twists. Like they just try to throw a twist on top of a twist on top of a twist to where it doesn't have any meaning anymore because now you don't believe anything that's presented to you. And really, when you have such a phenomenal cast, a part of a movie like this, people like Catherine O'Hara and Bryan Cranston and Cena and Cavill, all really great actors. Many of them are underutilized due to the meta sort of contextual nature of the film and how it's presented, which is interesting. It's an interesting idea, but I was often left thinking like, I kind of want to spend a little bit more time with Henry Cavill and John Cena, and I want to see how their
hmm
interaction it is. But
Right.
now we actually have to focus on Sam Rockwell and Bryce Dallas Howard, which individually I like them. Together, they didn't work for me at all. I just did not like the pairing of those two in this particular movie. And yeah, I think it's pretty bad. And really, by the end of it, they gave us a mid-credit scene, which is probably some of the most cynical shit I've seen in a movie in a really, really long time. I'm just so fed up with. I can't give it away, but I'm just so fed up with a lot of these projects, these studios, and even some of these filmmakers shoehorning potential franchises into these properties or into these
hmm
these concepts that they sell to us as potentially original ideas when in actuality this is kind of a backwards way to get us to something else that you intend to achieve. And it's really disheartening to me because I'm just really tired of the franchise IP build outs that every studio is trying to achieve, especially from these tech companies and these streamers that are throwing money, buckets of money at these movies. I mean, reportedly Apple spent $200 million for the license of this movie. I don't even think that includes
Wow.
the production budget. So we have to add on
Wow.
a lot more money than just 200 million. And Variety is reporting that it needs 500 million worldwide to break even. It's not getting that. It flopped at the box office. And so I'm just wondering, and I'm asking, what are we doing? Why are we doing these types of movies? Why are we not making sure that we can just develop the best story possible and just move on, because what they did at the end here with the mid-credit scene, it's some bullshit. It's some absolute bullshit, and it doesn't excite me at all. It's the same shit that Transformers did last summer. It's terrible. I hate it, and I just didn't really like this movie at all. And so it's not something I plan to revisit really anytime in the near future, and I can't recommend it, unfortunately. I will say, Matthew Vaughn, again, he's been talking a lot about Kingsman and Kick-Ass as
Mm-hmm,
franchises. He
mm-hmm.
intends to make another Kick-Ass movie, reimagine it, so do something entirely different than what he's already done. He does plan to, finish out his Kingsman trilogy, so to say. I guess he hasn't figured out the story, which is kind of alarming to me. It's been a long time since Kingsman 2 has come out. If you had to choose, like, which movie would you want to see first? Like, do you want to see a complete reinvention of Kick-Ass, even though like that first movie is already kind of really good, or do you want to see them kind of close out what they've built up with the Kingsman storyline, especially considering the potential implications that this movie presented to us?
Wow. Man, neither. And I know it's only have two answers here, but I wish he would just kind of go do something else at this point, because it seems like, I don't know, he's kind of spinning his wheels. It feels like to me. It's like, all right, you don't have any new ideas. I also feel like at least that Kick Ass felt complete to me, in that we're already kind of living in the Kingsman world. So part of me just wants to say Kingsman, just because like Kick Ass is already a thing that feels like it's in the past, versus Kingsman is like, it feels like it's kind of still going. So part of me just wants to say Kingsman. Maybe there is still some ideas in there and some fun to be had there that is better than this movie. So I think I'd go with that.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going off of the first two Kingsman movies, then that would be the one that I would choose. But that prequel really disheartened me, because I was like, oh, wait a
Mm-hmm.
second, we might be heading down some dangerous territory, because that's also just not a good movie. But perhaps it's the historical nature of it, or perhaps I don't know, man. Maybe Matthew Vaughn is just kind of too comfortable in these worlds that he's
Exactly.
overseeing right
Mm-hmm.
now. And I think that's my biggest fear for a lot of directors, that they kind of just get trapped in a particular lane. I think even with like Ryan Coogler for a while there, I was really
Mm-hmm.
like frightened that he was just only going to be making Black Panther related stuff. And I'm like, please no, don't do that. And now we know that he's going to be doing an original movie with Michael B. Jordan. I'm really happy to see that. And I hope that a lot more filmmakers continue to step outside of these franchises that they're building. I understand, the business aspects of it, job security, money, like make that money, but you would also hope for a good movie at the end of the day. But I do want to see what they can wrap up and do with the third Kingsman movie whenever we do get it. But we will have to wait and see once that day comes. But folks, those are all of our thoughts on the brand new Matthew Vaughn film Argylle. If you've checked it out, definitely hit us up and let us know what you think.